Good afternoon, and welcome back to another rendition of the B&H virtual event space. Today, we are meeting the unicorn. For everybody who saw this event online, they're like, what are they talking about? Justin Benson is our unicorn for the day. Hopefully, Justin, all I want by the end of this, yes, we want to learn about AfterShoot and how great it is. But if we get through this hour and I don't hear something about the unicorn, I'm going to be severely disappointed.
I'm wearing a unicorn shirt here. I can tell you the origin story of the unicorn. You just ask, I'll tell you.
All right, perfect. Well, I want to welcome you first of all. It's great to have you on. For those of you who don't know about AfterShoot, you're really going to get a introduction into where the world of photography post-processing is going. So before we get there, Justin, I'm going to welcome you, have you give a little bit of an introduction on yourself. Let us know a little bit about your history.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. My name's Justin. I'm a wedding photographer based out of Connecticut and the co-founder of AfterShoot. And so AfterShoot's an AI culling software and now AI editing software as well. And it's something that kind of was born out of a need, right? Who wants to go through their images, cull their images? And so our co-founder and myself, we kind of pooled our thoughts together and came up with AfterShoot.
Awesome. So we got to ask, we were talking about in the green room, what is the more dreaded task? Is it the culling or the editing?
Hands down the culling, right? So the reason that we ended up in the editing space is because once you solve the culling problem, you realize how awful the editing problem is, right? So culling was that dreaded task. How do you start going through images after you come back from an event or a shoot or whatever it may be? You got to go through them one way or the other. And we know Lightroom's not the most efficient way to get through everything. And there's other like manual options out there, but this is a problem that AI could solve. So once we solved that problem, then I realized, well, I'm just sitting here not delivering my stuff the same way as before because now I don't want to edit. So,
Well,
culling is the answer, but both are terrible.
Both are. Well, I feel the same way. And look, I'm not even a wedding photographer. I'm not out there taking thousands and thousands of images. And it's like, even if you get a couple hundred images, it's like, I just want somebody to pick out the ones that the eyes are closed, just grab the throwaways, just get the throwaways out of the way and give me some, a little bit more direction without investing the time. So I'm gonna have a ton of questions on the software itself. You're gonna be sick of me by the end of this hour, but I do want to go back to like you as a photographer. Like, how long have you been a photographer? How long have you been doing the wedding photography thing? And was this something that came out of your need, or was it more like you hear the buzz in the industry and you're like, hey, I should do something about that?
Yeah, great questions. So I started off, I used to work for the TV and film industry in New York. So I used to do location scouting. I'd go and find all the places that they'd film TV shows. And so through that, naturally, I had to have a camera in my hand at all times. And that's really, I just started taking pictures of like architecture and whatnot. And then it unfolded into like, hey, can you shoot this set for a magazine or whatever it may be? And it just grew from there. And then I just ended up shooting a shotgun wedding, right? Like it was, hey, I need a photographer. The baby's on the way. You take beautiful pictures in New York. Why don't you do this wedding? And me, naive self, said, yes, I will take on this challenge and see how I like it. And turns out I loved it, right? Like just interacting with people. I love making jokes and having fun. So it creates a great atmosphere on the wedding day. So that was all the way back. That first wedding was back in 2008. So that was really where things kind of took off. And since then I've been here. So the need came for culling just by, that problem has always been there, right? So from day one, I had no training. I didn't know that like a photo mechanic or, those manual softwares existed. So it was just going through in Lightroom, manually trying to figure out what to edit. And it's a problem that you face no matter what stage of photography you're at, whether you're a hardened professional or a part-time warrior, you always need to go through your images before you edit them, right? It's the fastest way to get through your workflow. And it doesn't matter genre, right? Like early on, I used to do all the things, families and whatever someone threw at me, it was a great opportunity to take the camera out and make some money. And so, again, it's a universal problem within the industry. And it's something that just I dreaded the most. Paralysis analysis is a term that we like to coin, right? Like, which one is better? Do I have to pick it? And so culling it drags on. It's a mental strain. And then my co-founder is actually not a photographer, and that's kind of why the company, there's two co-founders who are not photographers, and then myself, the photographer. So when you put those pieces together, like I'm the one who's like, these are problems, and they're the ones that are like, hey, we can use math and science. And I'm like, I
And
failed math and science, so you guys take that part and I'll just tell you the problems, right? And so, putting it all together, that's really where it came from. Is there is a way to do this that's a yes or no format that could simplify the entire process. No matter what you do, you can shoot product, you can shoot anything where you're shooting bulk. It has an impact.
interesting. You got me there on the doesn't have to be. It's almost like you're baiting me into asking, does it just have to be weddings? Does it just have to be people? I'm over here thinking, so I'm a street photographer, and I'm over here like, okay, I get it, like AI for closed eyes or for wonky eyes or anything like that. But I'm like, I throw in 1,000 pictures of architecture and street scenes, and I'm like, now I'm curious, like, what would the software do? What is it looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 15 different magical unicorns that run behind the scenes. And so what those unicorns are doing are assessing blur, motion blur, focus, closed eyes, emotion, all different sorts, composition. So all of these unicorns are kind of talking to each other. So in the case where you don't have a subject, we're obviously neglecting to look at like closed eyes, a human subject. We don't look at the closed eyes for that. So that obviously is not a useful feature in it, but you can also turn that off within the app as well. But yeah, so when you go through, we have lots of photographers that shoot all sorts of things, right? We think of culling as a wedding problem. But if you've ever shot like a sporting event, we have a couple of photographers who shoot for the NFL who are like, yep, this is a lifesaver. I'll come home with 20,000 images from a game, and it'll knock it down to maybe 5,000 images that are worth looking at instead of 20,000 that I have to go through and, have people look at individually. The way cameras are going, like burst rates on mirrorless is insane. And people are just, and that's going to be a problem that you're all going to, as time moves on, everybody's going to deal with this problem of, I accidentally took 12 pictures instead of 2.
Well,
And that's where we come into play,
that's
right?
where you guys
It's
come in.
cluster them together. So no matter your genre, whatever you're shooting, it's always useful. Like street photography, probably a little less, because I feel like you're probably just like creeping in the corner waiting for the moment. So you probably don't come back with tons of images that are similar that you need to go through. But if you have more than one of anything, we can stick those together and try and pick out the best one for you.
Interesting. Now, does this learn? I mean, what we've seen with artificial intelligence, kind of like an engine to learn about our propensities to do certain things, or for what our certain likes are, how we like to see things. Does it learn from the choices? So if you take 5 images, or the software takes 5 images and pairs them together and picks one, would somebody then go in, say I go in and it picks image 3 out of 5, and I say, well, you know what, I like image 4 out of 5. It's not the best portrait, or it's not the cleanest, but I like, maybe hair was in front of the face and I like that look. Does it learn from that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way our software is designed is to give you one of everything, right? So we're not a like destructive system where you're like, hey, I didn't get this image that I really wanted. We'll give you one of everything. So if you took 5 bad photos, we'll still give you one of the bad ones, right? We'll give you the best one, but you're still going to get one bad photo. So you'll always have that ability to kind of go through and tweak and adapt. And then over time, the AI starts learning what things you value more. So if you value composition over emotion, we start understanding that the better composition is the most important piece of your photo, and the emotion doesn't matter as much as the composition. So the more you start tweaking and adapting your culling, after it's done, the more we start learning, hey, prioritize emotion over blur, or prioritize, blurry images are okay if they meet these certain criteria. So it starts learning those things and adapting, and over time gets smarter. But as a company in general, we're also like, we're 1,000% devoted to our users. So we're a subscription-based software because we're working every day in and out on improving things that people say, hey, I wish it did this a little bit differently, or I wish that it would take this into consideration. And we start adding those things in. So we're really proud of what we do as a company, because we are listening to our users, right? It's hard to find companies that'll be like, yeah, reach out to Adobe and ask them to change something, right? And that's like, it's not going to happen, but we're going to push it as fast as we can, right? If it's a real need and a real desire to improve, we're going to be there and we're going to make it happen.
That's one of the things that I love with there's a lot of companies now that it seems like it's getting back to that. For a long time, it was just money, money, money. Let's make money hand over fist. We're going to do what we want. We know better than our potential customers. And you've seen kind of a re-emergence of companies that are listening to their ambassadors, listening to the public, pulling in the people who are actually using the products and saying, what do you want? And how can we make that happen, or what do we have to do to make that happen if there's enough of a demand for it? And I think that's one of the great things about what you see with this software. I How I actually came across you guys, other than seeing giant inflatable unicorn at WPPI a couple of rounds back, was people that I know from the industry and people that I respect in the industry who are not only using AfterShoot but raving about it. And that's kind of when my alarms go off, and I start to say, okay, I'm going to throw out the name Esteban Gil. Esteban Gil, good. It's funny, long story, not too long, but a funny story how I met Esteban through my work here at the event space. But he's become a photographer that I've come to know, love. I love his work. He's just a super cool guy. I love what he's doing for the industry. And when I see him raving about a product like this, it speaks volumes. That makes me, want to talk to the brains behind it to see where it came from, where it's going, where its place is in the industry. So all that's to say, I love what you guys are doing with that, with listening to people. I love subscription-based services because I do feel like when you know that there's a firmware update always around the corner, that's software that I want to hang my hat on. I don't want to go back to the days of paying $800 to buy Photoshop every time they released a new one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we took that to heart. We have 24/7 support. So if you're ever in a bind, you're there. One of us is there to answer your questions, help you out. It's a shift that this industry is needed, right? So I've always looked at it in the sense of we either had large tech corporations, like you said, hand over fist for money, just trying to profit, or you had photographers who knew the problems but couldn't solve them. And we're kind of that mix and marriage of the two, is that we have the tech guys who are like, yes, we can do the things that nobody else is doing, the groundbreaking changes and updates. And then you have me who's like, I just shot 3 weddings this past weekend. This is a problem I have right now, right? So when we put those two together, we kind of merge in this, perfect harmony of we're getting the best available technology while still remembering that every single user has a different workflow. They have different needs. They have different wants within any software we create or anything we do. And we need to be able to adapt and adjust to that. So just like you said, with Esteban, it was we just reached out to him. I've known him for a while, and I just reached out to him and I was like, hey, try this out. Let us know what you think. And he was like, yeah, I actually really like this, but I want these things different. So we adapted it for him. I think about 2 months after he gave us his feedback, we had a new version that was basically Esteban's version, right? It was like Esteban needed this and he got it. And that's when he was like, well, if a company actually listens to what we need as photographers, that changes the entire industry, right? That changes the perspective of what a software company in this industry should do.
Totally. How hard was it getting? Because I know coming from a creative mind, I don't have an technical or engineering bone in my body. So how hard was it to get on the same page with the tech minds and kind of set the parameters of like, okay, this is what we could do. This is where we draw the line. This is, we can only make certain things so easy. Was it a long process to get all the ducks in a row?
No, so actually, if you're cool with it, I'll tell the origin story of this all.
Totally, totally.
Yeah, so someone had posted in a Facebook group that there was a guy who wanted to do something with culling and making culling easier. And this is back in 2019. And I said, I hate culling. I'm all on board. I'm going to reach out. So I sent him a DM on Instagram. His name is Harshit. He's the co-founder here. I sent him a DM. I said, listen, whatever you got, I'm in. Let me help you. Let's figure this out. So at that point, he was actually just cold calling a bunch of photographers, just messaging them on Facebook, Instagram, saying, hey, who can give me feedback? So he came up with this concept, presented it, asked us a bunch of questions about our workflow and what we need to do. And then he had a prototype, the alpha, and it went out to 50 photographers and only 5 replied back to him. Wow. So 50 people, 5 replied back. And out of those 5 that replied back, all of them said, this is the worst software ever. You should give up. It's never going to work. You'll never get it. but I was the one who was like, I don't care how much work we have to put in. We are going to make this software work, because it was bad. The first one was really bad.
Well, what was it when you say it's bad? Was it just the function of it, or it just didn't
It did
work?
not pick. It picked like 1 out of 1,000 that were usable, right? So it just did. It wasn't there
Okay.
yet.
So you're running the software and then you still have to do the work
It
anyway.
was, yeah, it was rough. There was no, again, it was a proof of concept. So it was literally just like you drop a folder of images in and it would run through, and then you open up Lightroom and you see like all these stars and colors and things that it had ranked your images as, and it was not accurate. So I think it was probably like 45% accurate in that initial version. And so I wrote him back like the longest email you could ever write, and it was all the things that we needed to do moving forward to try and make it work. And then he called me and he was like, hey, so you're now going to be the co-founder. We're going to make this work. Moving forward, this is going to be how we function. And so the first, that was in 2020 when we had that, March 2020. So actually it turned into kind of a COVID baby, because at that point it was just us not shooting weddings and just going back and forth with ideas and concepts and coming up with solutions to problems. And then Eichmann, our other co-founder, came on at that point and also was there, like trying to ease some of the pain, right? Because we knew we'd never be 100% accurate. It's impossible for us to make a creative decision, right? Unicorns are smart, but they're not that smart. So if you said, hey, I've got this and I've got this, which one do you want? And one's a creative choice over the other creative choice, we can't make that call. So there'll always be a review system. So Eichmann came in and started designing this and building out a system where the key faces display, and it was awesome, right? So a total collaboration. We officially launched back in June of 2021. So we're just a year old at this point. That was our official launch, and just the difference between June 2021 until June 2022. We've made so many changes. We've grown our staff tenfold. So we're able to actually, make larger improvements, larger gains. And now, for myself, the accuracy is insane. We're up to the last wedding I delivered, 98.6% of the images that were delivered to the client were the ones that AfterShoot picked, which is
Wow.
fantastic,
That's awesome.
from my perspective. So again, it takes time. You got to teach it how you work, and it comes out of the box pre-trained. So it's not something where you have to go in and just dump all your images in and try and tell us what you like. Instead, we have everything pre-trained, and then you're just fine tuning and making it understand a little bit more about what you prefer. And then it starts getting better. And before you know it, you're at 98.6% accuracy, which is mind boggling.
That's awesome. Do you guys have like a number in mind that you like to keep it at? And how do you track? Do you have people give feedback on the app?
Yeah, so we're in touch with all of our photographers, right? We have a Facebook community where people pitch ideas, let us know what they're struggling with. Like I said, the 24/7 in-app support is amazing, right? Because you can literally just like open it up and say, hey, it's choosing these things consistently wrong. I'm having some issue. Can you help me? And then we say, yeah, send over all the pictures. Like we'll get to it. We dig down, and usually we can find something that's guiding us in one direction, right? And that's a lot of honestly, that's where Esteban's input came from, right? Esteban shoots at like f.01, right? Like he's got the
He's in the
narrowest depth
negative
of
F
field
stop.
ever, right? And so the inspiration for being able to adjust how much out of focus you would tolerate really came from him, because I shoot at 2.8. Like I'm a wedding photographer. I'm on a zoom lens. I don't run back and forth. I'm not on prime lenses. So for me, I'm either in focus or I'm out of focus, right? I missed it or I hit it. For Esteban, he's like, yeah, they're a little soft, but it looks pretty, right? So that's that difference. And because he said, hey, it's just not working for me on this front, we were able to adapt and change some thresholds and retrain the unicorns to accommodate that. So yeah, really just that in-app support. Our users are what drives us. That's how we move forward in this industry. And that's how we, plan on sticking around for a long time and being such a valued part of the industry, is listening. Every time, if we have a user come up to us at like WPPI, for instance, if they already use us, they usually come up to us and say, oh my God, I love it. But my question, my response to that is not, hey, that's awesome, thanks for using us. It's, thanks for using us. What can we do better next time? Right. And that's how we get to the problems at heart that people are facing still. And that's how we know where the next direction of the app needs to go.
I love that, especially because people have to have options. So I love that, you know, some people are a little naive. They see software like this come out and they're like, it's got to be, if it's not 100% on, it's like, this is trash. It's almost like reading reviews on Google reviews. You try to go to a restaurant, it's like, there's just certain people that can never, there's no taco that will meet the standards of, the random person who has never been to a real taco joint but loves to opine about them in the Google review section. I digress. It is great. It is great to have not only that accuracy, but that room for people like Esteban who are like, yeah, it doesn't have to be. He's not a pixel peeper. He can take. It's really just about the aesthetic, the feel. He'll tell you with pride. He's not a light and airy or dark and moody. He's both. He's whatever the mood. You probably know as well as I do that is Esteban. He loves trolling that fact online. But having that versatility, I think that's what makes the software so great. Because admittedly, when I first saw it, it's like, come on, you're gonna do it. Like, how are you gonna possibly? And when you don't set that expectation for, you know, just being, it's almost like if you set an expectation of all or nothing, it's just too rigid. There's no flexibility. You have to have that flexibility for this to be a system that's going to work with such a diverse industry, right?
Yeah, we left it open-ended for so many things, right? That's the goal, is your workflow doesn't really have to change much to make this work, right? You have to just open a new app now. But really, at the end of the day, there's so many ways you can use AfterShoot. Like, you can take images from Lightroom that are already in Lightroom and bring them into AfterShoot, have it cull, and then bring it back and use like the star rating system to filter out images. Or you can just use the ingest feature and bring them straight in from a memory card, download them to 2 different hard drives, have the cull run. That's my favorite workflow. I have like a multi-card reader that I got from B&H. I plug it in, and then you like that plug, right? I plug it in. I put on all my memory cards, and then I literally just let it run through. It ingests them, puts them on 2 separate hard drives, culls the wedding, and I wake up and I have a mostly culled wedding, right? Then it's just a matter of tweaking and adjusting. And like I said, it's getting rid of stuff that I don't need. So it is a little bit of a change in mindset, because a lot of us are used to like, I want to edit this. But for me, it's more accurate to say I don't want to edit this, because when I change that mindset and I scroll through, I'm like, okay, great. I had 5,000 images. Now I have 1,500 images. I'm only going to give my client, 800 to 1,000. So I'm going to go through and just decide, what don't I want to spend time working on? And it's changed how I've operated. There is a way that you can still use the cull-in method. So you let AfterShoot run, and then you can just add them to a different folder and decide that that's the way you want to just edit these ones. But once I got past that initial barrier, I realized I'm much better at deciding what I don't want to do than what I do want to do. It's much easier for me to say, no, I don't want to spend time doing that. It's not a value added, than it is for me to say, that's an okay picture. If I spend 2 hours in Photoshop, I can make this gorgeous, right? So having that forethought to say, yes, I don't want to spend 2 hours on Photoshop with this is awesome. So again, but we left it open-ended. We wanted people to be able to walk in and use this any way they want, because it's new, right? It's a brand new technology. It's not something that if you told me 5 years ago that AI was going to sort my images, I would have laughed at you. I would have said, no way. There's no way AI is going to get rid of blinks and blur and look at composition and emotion and all of these things and try and, deliver me something that I can edit. Impossible. I would doubt it if I said, that a human was going to do it. If you said, hey, there's this great service and it's super inexpensive and a human's going to go through your images, I bet they don't know what I want. Right. And that's just the general mindset of photographers. They don't, a lot of us are resistant to that sort of like outside influence. But we have to acknowledge we're photographers are superhumans, right? We're business owners. We have accounting, we have marketing, we have culling, we have editing, we have meeting clients. We have all of these things going on at the same time. And at some point, it's too much. At some point, you need to be able to take a little bit of time back. For me personally, I have 4 kids. So my schedule is full with 4 kids, and trying to do 40 weddings a year is insane. Culling, editing, it's just a huge backlog. It's 24 hours a day of work. It's too much. But it's the life I love, right? I wish I could just shoot 40 weddings a year and just walk away, right? Never have to touch anything. And that's what the goal is, right? We want to get you as close to that point where you're not sitting there. I used to spend realistically an entire day culling a wedding.
Oh.
And the main reason is because I don't want to cull a wedding, right? So I would like do it for like 20 minutes and I'd be like, I'm gonna just go clean something that I don't, like I just
Let
find a reason not to be in front of the computer because it's tedious and frustrating.
let
And
me
so
ask
now
you.
I just take Sundays off, right? I will let AfterShoot run. It does its thing, and I don't need to do anything anymore. And with the introduction of AfterShoot edits, I had a maternity session that I did last week. I culled, edited, and delivered the maternity session within an hour of getting home. So
Wow.
my I don't have to go back and do anything else, right? It's literally I came home, I ate dinner in that hour, by the way. So it was literally like I plugged it in, I let it ingest, I let it cull, it ran through, did its thing. I ate dinner, I came back, it was edited, culled, ready to go through, and I just went through, did my manual tweaks to everything, did any photoshopping of light stands that I needed to do, and then exported, and it was good to go. So it's just changing the way that we have to commit our time as photographers, because it's not that you don't have something else to do, right? Like there is better things to do for your business than going through your images. If it
Totally.
takes you 2 hours to cull a wedding or 30 minutes to cull an engagement session, whatever your timeline is for actually going through those images, now you can just take that time and recommit it elsewhere. It
Totally.
could be to your family if you like them, or if you want to stay home in the office or whatever. You don't have to commit it to other people. You can commit it to yourself. You can take time to just relax. You can social media, whatever you want. And that's kind of the coolest part, right? Is that now there is a way to automate some of these systems. You're still involved, so you're not shipping it off somewhere and hoping that it comes back okay, right? You're still one-on-one with the software. You're still heavily involved with it, but now you just don't have as many decisions to make. It's a lot easier to say, I'm going to look at 1,500 images than I'm going to look at 5,000 images. It's much more digestible when you put it that way. So
Definitely. Well, and I think a lot of it is we're creatives, we're humans. Humans are susceptible to, if you're tired, if you're not in a good mood. And I don't know to what extent this is true for wedding photographers, and you can give me your own personal opinion on this, but I found that like when I look through my images, a lot of times the way I see my images is dependent on what kind of mood I'm in. Am I in the mood to just put on my headphones and go through folders of images and look at images? Sometimes I see things that I'm like, you know what? I never saw that before, but I'm in the right frame of mind. I like it. And when you're talking about wedding images, one thing that I always hated in the 4 or 5 weddings that I butchered, I apologize to those couples out there, is that I would go through it. I was laughing when you were saying it's easier for you to know what you don't want. I would go through, and now that I hear you say that, I'm like, I was doing it all wrong. I went through and I picked out those 5 images where I'm like, yeah, I did something right. And then I would edit them and I would completely lose my desire to look at the rest of the images because I'm like, I went through, I looked at everything I liked, and now I'm just like, "Oh, I gotta go edit like a bunch of like mediocre moments." And to these people, that mediocre moment is like the most important day of their life. And Johnny photographer is over here like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to do this. So forget where I was even going in that long rambling diatribe there. But it's like,
that's exactly the point, right? Is that, there's it's easy to pick out what you really want to do. It's even easier to decide what you don't want to do. And this is the thing when it comes to like family formals, when it comes to the most basic things, dancing photos, these are all things I really don't desire to actually go through, right? I don't have any desire to look at somebody's family over and over again and make sure that everyone's eyes are open, that it's in focus, that it's the right, this is something that it really is easily automatable. So the fact that it's just, even if it just did the family pictures, I'd be so happy, right? Is everyone looking at the camera? Great.
boom.
Like that's, but I don't Photoshop faces anymore because of AfterShoot, right? I used to take like my 2 or 3 pictures, try and get the one where everyone's eyes are open.
Uh,
I'll shoot like 6 or 7 of them now because it's going to pick one, and the one it's going to pick, everyone's eyes are open, they're smiling, they're looking at camera. So I don't need to head swap anymore. So there's benefits to, I've honestly changed how I shoot a little bit more. I find myself coming home with more images than I used to.
interesting.
Because now I don't like bridal parties are the worst, right? Getting everyone to look at the camera when they're drunk or whatever, like it's not easy. So I always do my dance and jump and try and get everyone to look at the camera, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to have everyone looking in different directions, eyes closed. It's a difficult process. AfterShoot just does it. So I can shoot more of those things and not have to deal with going through them. And so, I do come home with more images now because I'm used to it. I don't have to think about opening Photoshop to swap a face, because that's the one bridesmaid who always had her eyes closed except for one photo in which everyone else had their eyes closed, right? So there's always that, ability just to overshoot a little bit more to save yourself time, which is it's great, right? It's alleviating all that.
Totally.
And I'm pretty sure that you're going to start shooting weddings after this now.
Dude, if I do one within the next 2 years, I'm forcing you. I will drive up to Connecticut and pick you up. I'm like, if I'm going through it, Justin's
Yeah.
gonna be second shooter and just witness this madness or save me. Save
Yeah,
me from it.
exactly. I mean, honestly, I don't do family sessions anymore because that's just, I love kids, but getting them to look at camera and how much you have to shoot to try and get those moments and those images, it's insane.
There's
But
certain things
I'm
that
actually going to
AfterShoot
do them
can't
again
even
this year because
this
AfterShoot's given me the confidence again.
There you
I've shot a couple families since then just to test AfterShoot on them. And that's the thing, is that now I'm like, it can tell if someone's looking at the camera. It can tell if they're smiling. If I'm going for look at the camera, I will shoot 20 of those pictures and it'll just try and give me the ones where they're looking at the camera smiling. But then when I tell them to look at each other and laugh, it's going to give me those too. So I get a little bit of everything. I get the candid, I get the formal, like looking at the camera. It really just changes how you perceive photography. Once you really get to the nitty gritty of it and you start understanding what the AI is there for, what it's capable of, how it can improve your workflow, it really just changes how you want to shoot, right? At the end of the day, we all want to make money. That's, we love photography and this is our career. But if you're not making money, you're not going to be happy with what you're doing, right? It's a hobby at that point, which is fine. That's great. We can keep it as a hobby if we want to, but if you're making money, you're going to take on shoots that you may not have wanted to take on, but having this in your pocket to help at least alleviate some of that excess work you created to make that money is awesome. And at the price point it is, so it's $120 a year. At that price point, if you save yourself 2 hours of time, it's paid for itself. If you've done 50 shoots over the course of the year and in every shoot you save 10 minutes, you've got hours of time back that you didn't spend in front of the computer. And that could be, turned into like I said, anything you want. You could grow your business. You could take that time to go to the spa. I went on a slip and slide with my kids the other day. It was awesome. I was like, I don't think I've ever gone on a slip and slide and like played with my kids since COVID happened, right? It's been like 2 years of just grueling weddings and all of these things because all the
culling that whole time.
I've been culling that. Yeah. I've been culling my whole life. So to be able to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna go on the slip and slide today with you guys. They were pumped. It was an awesome time. So, there's just so much you can do with a little bit of time. And at the end of the day, for $120 a year,
Dude, that's not even
a no-brainer.
That's not even, you wouldn't even attach the word investment to that. You get up in like $1,000, you're in like the hundreds per month. You're like, okay, but I'm investing in my business. This is like, I'll spend $10 on cloud storage that I never use just because it's $10 a month. I don't know how many cloud storage services I'm paying for that I forget I have, and I have like 2 pictures in there, but it's $10 a month. So that's the way my mind processes it. Now, I would love to see if you're able to show us at least, I don't know how much of a demo you could do with the time we have, or at least show us the layout of this. I'm super interested just to see how everything looks, functions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can go ahead and give you a pretty elaborate demo within this time. It's relatively fast paced to get through this. So this is our home screen. I'm gonna go ahead and just minimize your face as everyone can see my screen, I hope.
Yep.
Fantastic. So this is our home screen. Here you can see you can access our Facebook community. Again, ask questions, suggest things. Over here, I've culled 1.2 million photos with AfterShoot, and 405,000 of those were selected. So I have essentially not gone through manually, just shy of 1 million photos. So I've saved a lot of time. This is a great little feature here. This is how much time you've saved. This is an actual statistic. So what we did is we timed out how long it took me to cull manually versus how much time you would save using AfterShoot. And that is exactly how many days I've saved.
Wow. That
Yeah,
is insane. And you know what? That's something I love that that's in there because you can preach it and you can talk about it all you want, but seeing it there every time you go in, it's almost like when that thing pops up on your iPhone screen that tells you how many hours you spent on your phone the last week, and it has that opposite effect. You're like, damn, I got to throw this thing out the window. This is like validating using the software.
absolutely. No, it's fantastic just to see that firsthand. So this is our import screen. This is where you get started with everything. So as I mentioned, you can choose to ingest your photos. That's taking them off of the memory card and putting them directly onto a hard drive. And then it will proceed to automatically cull once that process is complete. Which is, again, it's fantastic if you're shooting weddings and that sort of thing, but it's great just because you can plug in a memory card and walk away. No matter what your shoot is, plug in your memory card and you can ingest. It'll just put them on a hard drive and automatically start culling. So you can go eat dinner or do whatever you want and then come back to a culled wedding, which is really cool to have that all in. You can choose whether it's RAW, JPEGs, or both, and then obviously subfolders. Here is the little bar that's explaining to you how AfterShoot is learning your style. So this will, as I said, I was actually 98.6%, so it rounded down. But it'll give you a good idea of how much we've gathered from you. Now, some boudoir photographers, they prefer to turn this off. So by turning it off, we won't learn anything from you. The way it learns is it actually uploads mini thumbnails of your images to us that we can then analyze on our end and start training profiles from it. So again, if you want to keep privacy and whatnot, you can turn that right off and it'll go away for you.
Awesome.
Now, AfterShoot is a really great software because we can actually drag and drop some stuff in. So just to keep it simple, we're not going to do an ingest. I just drag and drop a folder right into AfterShoot and it'll begin its process here. So we'll go back to full screen. So it's going to run through here. There's 1,000 images. This is just a hodgepodge. I have no clue what what is in here. So it's going to load those images instantly. And then what we're going to do, we're going to click on start culling, and it'll give us our options. So we have a drop down menu here for a couple different options that are available to you. So weddings, portraits, and we are adding more like wildlife and different, varieties of photography as we start training new models for them. So if you have any ideas or thoughts that you'd like to see with anything specific, let us know. Now, the most important part of this app, and I think it's really the best one, is that you get to see my face every time you open it. And so here we have the threshold for culling of blurred photos. So as I mentioned before, if you took 5 out of focus photos, we will still give you one of every photo. So you're going to get one of those 5, one of that grouping of images will be selected. With that being said, what this actually does is allow you to tolerate how much you'd be willing to accept as far as out of focus goes. So for instance, if you're like Esteban Gil and you shoot at a much shallower depth of field, you may want to stick it to lenient because you'll tolerate a little bit of softness within the eyes. Whereas if you are like, it has to be really sharp, if you're a pixel peeper, right? It's like, it's sharp or it doesn't count. This is where you would set it, is to strict. So we'll consider less images if the eyes aren't as sharp. Next up, we have the sensitivity for grouping of duplicates. So what this is how we cluster your images together, your similar images. So like, as I mentioned, if you're kind of shooting family session and you're shooting 5 of the same image, this is how we determine how similar they have to be clustered together. And so with this, if you set it to lenient, you're going to pick up on smaller changes within scenes. So if you look at the 4 images here, you have set 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sets 1 and 2, there's a head turn in them. And then sets 3 and 4, there's also a head turn in them. Whereas sets 1 and 2 have the same exact composition. If you look at the A in the background, they're more or less identical. And sets 3 and 4 have the same. So if we were to set that to lenient, it would break those all apart and you'd get to look at all of them. Whereas if you were to set it to strict, we're going to give you the ones where the heads turn slightly clustered together. And we're going to separate them because of a major composition change. So you can see the A in the background is centered on sets 1, and set 2, we've now changed composition. So it's been off center. So again, this is really something that I always tell people, if you're in the heat of needing to deliver a ton of sessions, this is not the best time to jump in, because you're going to want to play with these a little bit to figure out what works best for your shooting style. You know, some people are like overshooters. They set it to strict, and then they end up getting a whole bunch of images clustered together that they don't want clustered together, because while they're an overshooter, they like to see subtle differences and pull out different ones. Whereas in the same vein, some people will set it to lenient, thinking, oh yeah, I want all the small things. And then they get like a million photos and they're like, oh, I didn't realize it was that small. Right. So that initial experimentation process, again, I'd just say, don't do it when you're like on a deadline. You might want to like run these through a couple different times, which is totally fine. You can recull, try different things, and see really where the sweet spot is for you. And then next up is the amount of selections in a duplicate set. So this is how many images we would pick out of a set here. So you have more, moderate, or less. This is just a percentage, so 30%, 20%, and 10%. And what this means is that above, if you were to set it to strict and set it to less, you would get one image out of a duplicate set, right? So you'd have a duplicate set of 10 images, you'd get 1 out of 10 images. Whereas if you were to set it to more, you'd get 3 out of 10 images. And what we're doing is when we pull out those different images, we're looking for differences in head pose, facial expression. So you're getting 3 different looking images out of a set, if they're available to us. If there's not, we're just going to give you the 3 images that seem to have the best emotion.
Awesome.
And then next up, you can stop me if I go too fast as well.
No, this is great.
Next up is the amount of highlights. So highlights are images that we believe would perform well on social media. So we have an algorithm that actually compares your images to images that have performed well on social media in the past. Important note, you're going to get some really random things because this is not specific to a genre. So we're looking just in general at images that would perform well on social media based on lighting and composition and subject matter. And so the example I like to give is like, if you take a really nice picture of a Coca-Cola can, it's probably going to end up in the highlights because Coca-Cola generally performs well on social media. You know, they have a massive marketing team that spends billions of dollars to advertise Coca-Cola. So you'll get some things where you're like, why did I get a picture of a Coke can in here? But it happens. I had a photographer once say that it was Diet Coke. The groom was like chugging Diet Coke all day out of the can. And like anytime he was drinking a Coca-Cola and he took a picture, it ended up in the highlights. Because again, Coca-Cola's got a good marketing scheme going.
Wow.
And then so down here, we have the ability to enable or disable AI features. So you can turn off closed eyes if you're doing newborn photography. We have a bunch of motorsports photographers who actually don't care if there's motion blur in the background, so they turn that off. And you can also turn off the ability to cluster duplicates. So if you're like a single shot type photographer and you just want a way for us to get rid of blinks and blur, you could turn off the duplicates. We won't cluster anything together. You can still do the entire manual review by yourself that way. We also have the ability to overwrite existing stars and colors. So if you have taken pictures and rated them in camera or rated them anywhere else, you can uncheck that box and we won't overwrite anything. And I'm going to give you a quick glimpse. I just clicked on change stars and colors at the bottom. This is the way I have my system set up. So all the selected images, which are the images that are the ones that AfterShoot is picking, I set them to 5 stars in green. You don't have to, you can turn off color labels if you want, or turn off star ratings if you want. But this is how we classify those images. So if you had all your images in Lightroom, you could have it run through, or Capture One, you can have it run through and put stars and colors to those images. And then that metadata will show up in those softwares. And you'll be able to actually just filter within them. So all your images would have different rankings on them. Or if you just want to, you know, have it rated for whatever you want, that's fine too. And these are the categories. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually get out of here and just dive back in and show you what a wedding could possibly look like for you. So we have a wedding here. This was 4,000 images culled down to 1,393 in 33 minutes. So it was relatively fast process. Yeah, it's pretty quick. We're working on speed improvements all the time as well. We used to not really care how fast it went through. And then people were like, hey, I'm trying to like cull this at the wedding and leave with a culled wedding. And I'm like, okay, let's get that going then. Let's figure out how to make it work for you. So as you can see, like there's a big difference in lighting here. So as I said, this is more of like the reject it and get rid of it sort of style. very similar images, changes of frame, changes in lighting will appear. So again, you're going to get one of everything. This is an image that I took because I thought maybe there was a moment unfolding and it did not. So I actually will use the X key and that'll just reject it away. So it'll send it off into the abyss.
So when Justin, when you use that X key, is that playing into the AI, like the AI is reading, okay, doesn't like this image for whatever reason?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So it'll look at it. And in that case, let's undo that image here. You'll see there's only one really visible face, and she's got a funny looking face in that one. So it's going to start saying, okay, if there's not good emotion in a picture, he's not interested in it. Now, again, it's still going to give you one of everything. So since this is a one-off shot, it's going to just say, all right, we should probably still give it to him, even if the emotion's not great, but it's going to start taking that into consideration over time, as to how we cluster images and how we move about it. So yeah, so rejecting is a great way just to signal, hey, I don't need this. It's not valuable to me. Within the app, all these keyboard shortcuts are all listed here, and they're also entirely customizable as well. So you're able to actually go in and customize. It doesn't have to be the X key. That's just what it is by default.
Interesting.
So I'm going to collapse this over here. But before I do that, I'll just show you real quick. We have 1,391 images now. 449 of those are blurry or out of focus images. Those are also one-off images in which there is blur detected. Same with closed eyes here. There's 133 one-off images with closed eyes. So some people do like to review those and see if there's anything they want to pull out of that set. For me, I'm comfortable. I know what I shot. So I don't generally go through those. And then there is 2,027 similar images. So again, those are just duplicate images where I'm just taking the same thing over and over so I don't have to Photoshop faces. And then we have 172 warned images. So warned images are images in which we don't think it's a good image. There's blur, there's closed eyes, something's not right with it, but you took more than one of it. So we still had to give you the one. So in that case, they're already going to exist in here, right? There are selected images. So like this one, I can already tell I definitely shoot Nikon, so it's not in focus. So that's kind of how it does, right? It's going to say, hey, you didn't take a in focus version of these. So here's the version for you. So now that that's there, I'm going to actually collapse that down. Again, test shots are going to appear. I took 2 test shots, so it's in there. And I'm going to dive down to some bridal party photos because this is like life-changing stuff down here. When you start getting to family pictures, bridal party photos, we have what we call our key faces screen. Wow. So what we're looking at here is all of the key faces in an image. So this is going to let you see all of the bridesmaids, groomsmen, all their faces up close and personal. So you can see if anyone's blinking, right? It's just such a simple feature to have that revolutionizes even the manual aspect of this. Being able to see their faces up close and personal is awesome. So you'll see down here, I have what we call our duplicates. So these are all similar images. So we clustered all 8 of these together because again, they're all just the same thing over and over again. And you can always cycle through them if you'd like. So keyboard shortcuts as well. Period and comma would show you here, like this one's marked as closed eyes. I have closed eyes set to purple and 2 stars because he has closed eyes.
So you're cycling through just that. So I see you're clicking the arrow within that one box. So
yep. So these are just these same images that are all clustered together.
Okay. And the other, so the other 4 images on the screen, like 3802 and the 2 on the bottom, those are clusters as well?
These are clusters as well. Yep. So this is a different cluster. So in this case, if I had to guess, yeah, so there's just different frames happening in within the set. So this would just be a straight reject for me. It's similar enough to this one that I know that this is just the set that I should be, stopping and seeing. But in this case, I just clicked on it and I can see everyone's eyes are open. It's in focus. I'm happy. I'm good. I'm going to move on from there. I don't need to review it. This one is a slightly different composition. I added the floor back in. I got a little bit lower. So don't need it. Doesn't matter to me. Similar enough. Now, of course, if you want to see anything in more depth, we have other screens available. So you can always switch to the loop view, or in this case, hit the enter key. And so this is going to bring it full screen for you. So you're able to actually see up close and personal. You can click on any one of these faces if you want to see. So as you can see, it's a little soft until you get to the groom. So edge of frame is a little bit softer than I would like it. You can also use the option arrow key to, again, cycle through all the faces. So you can just get a nice close and personal view of everybody. And you can also just cycle through all the similar images. So this one is marked as closed eyes because obviously her eyes are not open. She's blinking. So again, there's lots of tweaks and adjustments you can make within any set of photos as well. So if I were in this screen, I know I'm going super fast, but there's so much to show. I'm so excited about it. But within this screen, you can use the period and comma keys. So let's say I like this image a little bit better. This is the third one down. I like that they're looking at each other versus this one where he's looking at the camera smiling. So what I can do is go to the one that I prefer. And if I hit the S key, now it swapped them. So this image is now my selected image, and the one where he's looking at the camera is now not my selected image. And so again, there's tons of tools just to speed up the process of manually reviewing, checking out images. Like this one is plus 12. So I took a ton of images here, 12 very similar images, because I think I was making them laugh and having them dance and do silly things. So it's giving me all that variety. But again, I don't have to review all 12 of these images. It selected 3 because I had it set to moderate. So it selected 3 out of 12 for me. So it's just 3 different images based on what it thinks is best out of the set, which ones have the best emotion, which ones are the sharpest, which ones have the best composition.
Super cool.
So yeah, that's pretty much how to get through. Again, there's tons of stuff. X is to add, or sorry, X is to reject, A is to add something back in. So let's just say I really love this version of the image as well. I want both of them. If I hit the A key, I can add it right back in, and it's going to be back in for me. Now, once you're all done, we have the ability, you can click on Save Changes, and you can click on Export, and we have single click export to Lightroom Classic or Capture One. Or you could export to a folder as well. So you can decide to like move them or copy them based on whether they're selected, highlighted. You can move them all if you'd like. You can edit capture times within the app as well. But again, back to the simplicity of things, you can also just select all and just drag and drop them down into your Lightroom if you'd like. And then eventually Lightroom will open up. My Lightroom's not very fast here. So eventually it'll open up and it'll show us all of our selected images ready to import.
That is so cool. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm blown away. I wasn't expecting. Just everything looks super easy. The layout. A lot of times I get caught up in the user experience, and if something looks too difficult or there's too many menus and options, I mean, this is pretty much like a plug and play version of software.
That was our goal, right? So we know we have this theory that we want the software to be as simple as possible while on the surface, while still letting you tweak and adapt and do so many different things within it. So a lot of the features we add are things that you'll find in the preferences, or, so they're there if you want to experiment, if you want to try different things, if you want to, like, we have like, different ways of doing things. They're all just below the surface. So you can open it up and try it out, having no knowledge or expertise of what this does. But at the same time, if you want it to do specific things, it's quite easy to actually just coach it through and have it do those specific things. So, again, it's a great way to look at things and kind of run them a little bit differently. This is not the album I meant to call. But yeah, so, you can definitely customize this experience quite a bit, which is important, for photographers, because like I said, it's not one size fits all, right? And not everybody likes to do things the same way. So being able to actually just have it set a little bit different for your personal user experience is awesome.
Yeah, that makes all the difference. Now, we did have a question which kind of leads us into a little segue here. We are going to have Justin back in a couple weeks to talk about another aspect of the AfterShoot empire. But the man of the hour himself, Mr. Esteban Gill. We've summoned him from the far reaches of the internet, and he wants to know, how does the edit software work? Will I have to send AfterShoot images to create a profile? I cannot wait for this.
I personally want to say, Esteban, I love you. So Esteban's been a part of this a little bit, so that was kind of a low ball question. He knows the answer, but I'm happy to that he brought it up, because AfterShoot edits is the next step of this process. So we'll be back in a few weeks to show you guys exactly how it works, but it's actually going to be done within this software. So it's all going to be in one place, so you're able to actually cull and then set it up to edit as well within the software. And so just like Esteban said, it's going to start off as a training process. So you're going to give us 5,000 images that represent what you do as a photographer. So how you generally edit your images. So 5,000 edited images in Lightroom. And then what we're going to do is actually build a profile using the AI to predict how you would edit in different situations. And then we send it back to you, and your edits will start editing, which is, like, again, just a really, really cool concept. All right, so here the export feature opened up. So you can see all the selected images are highlighted. The boxes would be checked, but they're actually already imported here, so I can't import duplicates. But it would just show you just your selected images ready to import into Lightroom by dragging and dropping. But back to editing. Yes, so editing, we're really excited. That's embarrassing. And that is my lovely wife. So editing, we have just a couple of things I'll show you here, but the idea behind editing is to match your style with your own edited images. So as you can see here, this is my general style. So this is my before image, and this is what AfterShoot edits did. It just went through. It applied the white balance, the highlights, the shadows, and just all the different pieces of my editing style to this image. So it's different than a preset because it's smart. So it's going to look at how you're shooting your images, how you expose them, how you operate in general, and then looking at what your final destination is with those images and replicate that system to that particular image, which is, again, amazing. I had mentioned delivering that shoot, that a maternity shoot last week. I actually also shot a wedding on Friday. I started at 3 p.m. on Friday. I ran AfterShoot cull on the way home, got home, ran it through AfterShoot edits. And then by the time I woke up at 11:30 the next day, I had a fully edited wedding gallery. And I spent, just a couple hours tweaking it. So within 24 hours of getting to my wedding, I was able to actually finish editing and deliver a wedding, which is mind-boggling.
Wow, that is great. Now
24 hours, Derek. You can get back to weddings. It only takes a day to shoot it, and within 24 hours you can deliver it and edit it. It's fantastic.
He's trying to convince me. It's maybe, and every once in a while I get that person that's like, but it's not going to be big. It's going to be just like a little thing, like only 50 people. No,
yeah, no, never. It's never. That's never how it is. But yeah, so thank you, Esteban, for that question. That is absolutely a great question. So you will have to train it to start. We will eventually be rolling out some baseline profiles for different styles. So you'll be able to actually just say, hey, like, I want to edit this style. I want to be bright and airy or dark and moody. And we'll start applying those edits for you. But right off the bat, it's going to be based on you training the software. And as with all of our releases, it's a beta release when it comes out. So in just a few months, we'll be launching this to the public. And when that goes to the public, it's going to be 100% free to start, which is, that's what we believe in. That's how we did AfterShoot. The original version of AfterShoot, we gave it to users starting in November and then didn't start charging for it until June. Because we wanted users to give us that feedback, tell us what works, what doesn't work, what they wish we did better, because we want to build the best software that there is available to mankind, right? Photographers need to look no further than AfterShoot because they can believe in us, they can trust us, they know that we're going to try and do what's best for you guys. And I think it's just proven in the fact that we're going to give away editing 100% free.
Definitely. Well, the most important question or line of questions now that we've gotten in, Harshit and Lemuel, What's the secret to that mustache? And is there any mustache and bearded preset?
So secret to the mustache is just let it do its thing. So
No
it's just
wax? Is there no
no.
wax, any
So
conditioner?
there's pomade. I use pomade, which
Okay, he's
is
fancy.
yeah, I'm fancy. Wax melts and it doesn't hold as well. And then Lemuel, there will be, you will likely see probably one of the first presets in the profiles, or the first profile that we'll kind of announce is probably my profile, right? Something that's it's performing really well. You know, the last profile, it was somewhere around like 96% accurate to what I was doing, which is incredible, right? I edited a session, I ran it through, and then we compared them side by side. And we saw that it was just, it's almost me. It's scary that I've basically got a mini me running around editing things. So Magical Unicorns will have a mustache and bearded profile for you soon.
Awesome. Well, Justin, looks like just incredible software. The community, we've gotten a bunch of comments that have come in, namely Luis here, do alto fotografía. My Spanish accent is not the best, so Luis, don't come for me. Don't come for me in the YouTube comments either. But no, the community just sounds great. And that's really what it's about, man. It's community. It's building each other up. There's enough negativity out there. Having a positive community. You guys are only trying to make this better, make people want to, happy wedding photographers are great wedding photographers. You don't want somebody weighed down with the stress of the wedding day. And
Happy any photographer, right? It
it,
doesn't
man.
matter what, it doesn't matter what you're shooting. If we can save you 5 minutes, 10 minutes here or there, whatever it is, we're here for our photographers, right? Like we are photographers first and foremost, right? I still shoot every weekend despite being part of this massive amazing company. So I still shoot every weekend. We're still involved. Like I use these products every week. So we want them to work. We believe in our ambassador team as well. You know, Esteban obviously coming and commenting in, Mike Z. You know, we have a lot of people that we believe in, right? We want to see them grow alongside of us within this community, because that's what it is, right? Photography is, it used to be a very tight-knit community. And then the internet kind of pulled us all apart, and we're trying to bring us all back together because it's important, right? We're all in this together. We're all facing the same struggles within software, within, culling and editing and all of these things. So if we can't be united on everything, let's be united on this, and saving time and making our jobs more successful, right? It's making money, it's spending time. How many of us started our photography businesses because we wanted to be able to make our own schedule? And then how many of us now can't dictate our lives because all we do is cull and edit?
Amen. Give this guy a mic. I'm just gonna log off here and let you just keep preaching. I love it. Justin, so good having you on, man. I told you, I'm like, there were no, for those of you out there watching and listening, we didn't pregame. I didn't lay out. Justin wasn't like, here's a sheet of questions, ask me these. He came in here completely blind to whatever was going to be thrown at him. And I think it's just a testament, man, to how well this software works. And you clearly know it front to back to front, which I think is great. That's exactly what people want to see, because ultimately the software is about trust. You said it before. It's about trust. It's about, what's the purpose of this software if you have to go back and double check it or triple check it, or you have to doubt what it's going to spit out in the end result. So awesome software. I'm really looking forward to having you back for another round to talk more about this editing process thing, because I got quite already up there. Questions are already building up there. I might actually have to pay Esteban to jump into the comments section and heckle on that one. See if he can come up with some difficult questions for you.
He's about a week away from getting his first taste of the editing. So
Oh,
yeah,
nice. So by the time I see you again, he'll have enough time. If I know him, he's going to spend the first 2 days just trying to shoot holes in it.
Yep.
All right, there we go. So
yeah, exactly. He'll be heckling us in the comments next time for sure.
He'll be back in the comments. And if anybody wants to join Esteban in the comments section, feel free. We had a nice little AfterShoot community hangout in there today. So we'll get Justin back in a couple weeks, but that's all we got for today. You made it out unscathed for the most part, but wonderful software. I want to thank Justin and the entire AfterShoot team for making this happen. Christine, special thank you to you for putting the wheels in motion on this and always keeping the socks on point. at conventions. So huge thank you to you all. Justin, we'll see you in a couple weeks, but that's all we got for today. Another rendition of the B&H virtual event spaces in the books. Catch y'all next time.
Thanks.